Hi, friends. Today I want to share a new story with you. Hope you enjoy it. Useless girl, you were never the smart one, my dad said again. His voice filled the living room where my relatives quietly sipped their drinks, pretending not to hear. I stood still, holding the certificate I was so proud of. It suddenly felt like a child's drawing instead of the award I had won in a big business competition. I'm Vanessa Graves, 31 years old, and I've heard things like that from my dad all my life. I grew up in Columbus, Ohio, always in the shadow of my brother, Logan. He was the favorite. His grades, trophies, and later, his business deals, were all praised. No matter what I achieved, my family hardly noticed. Dad, I was thinking about expanding the company into. I tried to speak, my stomach tight. Vanessa, please, he cut in, rubbing his forehead like I was giving him a headache. Your brother just got $1 million contract. Let's talk about something real for once. My mom gave me a kind look but stayed silent. My Aunt Patricia patted my hand and said, maybe business isn't for you, dear. You were always good at your little crafts. Little crafts? My tech startup had been growing for 3 years, and they still saw it as a hobby. I nodded politely and walked to the kitchen. I leaned against the counter and took deep breaths. My phone buzzed. It was a message from my business partner, Eliza. Did you tell them about the investor meeting? I texted back, not yet. Bad timing, but really, it was never a good time in this house. My dad, Robert Graves, a retired engineer who thought he knew everything about business, had already made up his mind about me. Too emotional, he'd say, not a leader, and worst of all, not CEO material. I heard Logan talking loudly in the living room, my dad laughing proudly. I looked through the doorway and saw him pat Logan on the back, something I couldn't remember him ever doing for me. I put my phone away, stood up straight, and went back into the room with a fake smile. They had no idea what I was about to prove. The next day, I arrived at our small office in a renovated warehouse downtown. My company, Neurosync, started as doodles on napkins during lunch breaks. Now, we had 15 employees and cutting-edge tech in predictive analytics. Eliza looked up as I walked in. She could tell I was still upset from dinner. That bad? She asked, handing me a coffee. Same as always, I said, taking the cup. Logan landed some government deal, and you think he cured cancer? Eliza rolled her eyes, and we're just over here changing how companies understand customers. No big deal. I smiled. Eliza always got it. She understood the tech, and the feeling of being underestimated. The investor meeting's set for Thursday, she said. Westlake Ventures wants to see the new algorithm. If it goes well. When it goes well, I corrected her. We'll have the money to grow and compete with Horizon Data. Horizon Data was our biggest rival, bigger, older, and the same company that once rejected my job application. Their CEO told me to try something less technical. That rejection letter still sits in my drawer. Back at my parents' house, Logan's photos filled every wall. His scholarship and awards were framed. My college graduation photo, tucked in an old album, never shown. I once came home thrilled about a top tech internship. Dad brushed it off. When I made the dean's list for computer science, my mom said school must be easier now. I learned to keep my success to myself. For 3 years, I lived in a tiny apartment, eating ramen and putting every cent into Neurosync. I worked long hours, studied business nonstop, and learned from every mistake, all while hearing my dad's voice in my head, useless girl, never the smart one. The meeting room at Westlake Ventures felt warm even with the AC running. I fixed my blazer and glanced at Eliza. She nodded. We had practiced the pitch many times, but this one mattered most. As you can see from the data, I said, pointing to the screen, our algorithm beats market averages by 27%. That means we can predict what customers want better than anyone. Gregory Westlake, the firm's founder, leaned forward. How does your tech compare to Horizon Data? I was ready. They use old data. We track real-time emotions. They tell you what customers did yesterday. We tell you what they'll do tomorrow. The room went quiet. Investors trading looks. This was the moment I had worked toward for years. 2 hours later, Eliza and I stood in the lobby, stunned. Westlake didn't just invest. They wanted to lead a funding round that valued Neurosync at $90 million. Our company was about to leap forward. We did it, Eliza whispered, grinning wide. Vanessa, we actually did it. I nodded, my heart still racing. We need to call the team and the lawyers. My phone rang. It was my mom. I thought about ignoring it, but I answered. Hello. Vanessa, don't forget your father's retirement party next Sunday. Everyone's coming. It would be odd if you weren't. I'll be there. Good. Oh, and Logan closed another deal. He's becoming a VP. Maybe you can bring those cookies you used to make. People love them. The contrast hit me hard. One minute I'm closing a life-changing deal. The next, I'm being asked to bake cookies for Logan's celebration. Actually, Mom, I might have something to share too. That's nice, dear. Just don't make them too sweet. You know your father's sugar levels. As she went on, I looked at Eliza. She raised an eyebrow. I just shook my head. Some things don't change, but I was changing. The next week flew by. Legal work, meetings, planning. The company was transforming. I was living on caffeine and adrenaline. Thursday morning, Eliza ran into my office, excited. Did you see this? She asked, holding out her tablet. What is it? I asked, tired from reading contracts. Forbes, Business Insider, Wall Street Journal, they're all running the story. I took the tablet. My face was on the Forbes homepage. The headline, Vanessa Graves becomes youngest female tech CEO after major deal. My stomach dropped. The news was supposed to go out next week, after I told my family, but there it was, our deal, my story, out in the world. The Columbus Business Journal even called me a local tech pioneer. Messages flooded my phone. Old classmates, coworkers, even distant cousins were reaching out, but not my parents, not Logan. Their silence said it all. We should celebrate, Eliza said. We will, but I need to make a call first. When I called my parents, my dad answered. Graves residence. Dad, it's me. I guess you think we're impressed, he said, making a scene in the news. I blinked. It wasn't planned. The story got out early. Logan's built his career step by step, but you always want to show off. That old sting returned, but this time, I felt something else too, anger. Show off? I built this company with no help, no support, and no praise from you. Now your name's in some articles. Congrats, but let's see how long that lasts. I held the phone tighter. I'm now CEO of a $90 million company changing an industry. That's more than just articles. This tech phase will end. Logan's career is stable. Yours? Not so sure. I closed my eyes. I was done with this. Dad, I have to go. I'll see you Sunday. Vanessa, he began, but I had already hung up. I paused quietly for a moment, then reached into my bag and pulled out my laptop. If my family couldn't recognize my success, maybe it was time to remind them in a way they couldn't ignore. Sunday arrived warm and clear, a perfect early summer day for an outdoor retirement party. I hadn't called my parents again after Dad's last lecture. I let the news articles speak for me. Over the past few days, my story had exploded. Business shows ran features on Neurosync and how I'd beaten the odds. Now I sat in my car outside my parents' suburban home, watching guests arrive, relatives, Dad's old coworkers, neighbors, everyone who'd quietly watched me fade into the background for years. I took a deep breath, checked my reflection in the rearview mirror, slid on my designer sunglasses, and stepped out of my new red Jaguar F-Type, the gift I'd given myself just yesterday. Its sleek body and growl turned heads immediately. I grabbed a small, neatly wrapped box from the passenger seat and felt dozens of eyes on me. Cousin Drew, always the car guy, stopped talking mid-sentence. Is that Vanessa? He asked. I smiled, handed him the keys. Want to park it? Driveway's tight. He turned them over in his hand. This is the V8, right? That sound. Good ear, I said, enjoying how the small crowd by the garage had gone quiet. Be gentle with the custom trim. I headed toward the backyard, where folding tables were set on the lawn. The smell of Dad's barbecue mixed with Mom's flowers in bloom. Some things never changed, but I certainly had. Mom spotted me first. Her greeting froze when she took in my look, a tailored cream suit, bold blue blouse, heels, and jewelry that whispered success. Vanessa, she finally said, you look different. Thank you, I answered, kissing her cheek. Where's Dad? I brought him something. She pointed toward the grill, where Dad stood among his guy friends, teaching them grilling tips. I walked over, feeling the conversation die as I approached. Dad, I said, holding out the gift, happy retirement. He turned, his face blank. He took the box. You didn't have to. I wanted to, I replied evenly. After all, it's a big deal, 30 years of work. His friends stirred, clearly sensing something they'd read in the papers. I saw recognition in their eyes, then confusion as they watched him hold the gift. Well, he said, tucking it under his arm. I should get back to these steaks. Of course, I said with a polite smile. We don't want them ruined. As I walked away, I heard one of his friends ask, Bob, isn't that your daughter from the news, the CEO? I didn't wait for his answer. I made my way to Logan, who stood with his wife, Jennifer, both staring at me. Quite an entrance, sis, he said, sounding unsure for once. Nice car, he added. Thanks, I said. How's the VP role? Mom said congratulations. Before he could answer, Jennifer jumped in. We read about Neurosync. Why didn't you tell us? I paused. I tried many times. No one listened. Logan shifted uncomfortably, remembering those old family dinners. He looked sorry. Well, we're listening now, Jennifer said. $90 million valuation, that's huge. I noticed people whispering nearby, suddenly aware of my achievement. Thank you, I said. It's been a long journey, but our tech really changes how companies see customers. Logan cleared his throat. I'd love to learn more. Maybe my company could use your system. The irony stung. Years ago, I'd asked him about partnering on a prototype. He'd said it was too risky. I'll have my assistant be in touch, I replied smoothly. We're booked for months, but we can see what we can do. His face fell at being treated like any other client. At that moment, Aunt Patricia swept in, hugging me. Vanessa, dear, why didn't you tell us how amazing you were? She gushed, loud enough for everyone to hear. This was the same aunt who'd once called my business little crafts. I tried, I said, keeping my smile. It never felt like the right time. As the afternoon went on, the mood shifted. Relatives who'd gathered around Logan now clustered near me, asking about Forbes, Business Insider, the Wall Street Journal features. I answered politely, but kept the tone professional. Dad stayed by the grill, his kingdom, watching me. He still hadn't opened my gift, a custom-engraved watch reading, To New Beginnings, Love, Vanessa. When dessert was served, Dad tapped his glass. The yard went quiet. Thank you all for coming, he began. After 30 years, retiring is worth celebrating. I appreciate you all being here. He told stories from his engineering days, thanked friends, then named his kids. Logan, now vice president at Hamilton Financial. Polite applause. Logan nodded. And Vanessa, he added, voice catching, who's been quietly building something we didn't fully understand. Silence fell. I looked into his eyes, waiting. I've always said she was the emotional one. He joked softly, few laughed, but I see now I underestimated her. It wasn't an apology, but it was the first time he'd admitted I might be right. Glasses raised, and I saw respect in many faces. The party went on under string lights. I moved through the crowd confidently, no longer the overlooked daughter. Watching the change in people was satisfying. Later, I found Dad alone by the garden, nursing a glass of whiskey. You haven't opened your gift, I said, nodding at the watch still on the table. He looked at me, really looked. I waited for a quiet moment. He said, and, I guess, I was nervous. I nodded, that's okay. He unwrapped it slowly. CEO of a $90 million company, he read, is that true? I smiled, it is. He paused, then admitted, I don't get all this tech, but I see you did it. You don't need to understand it, I said softly, just know I built something lasting. He nodded and gestured to my car decked out outside. That car, quite the reward, huh? I laughed, I earned it. He looked at me with a new pride. You certainly did. 2 months later, Neurosync's new headquarters opened in downtown Columbus, a gleaming glass building. Employees, investors, and local leaders came to the ribbon cutting, and to my surprise, my whole family was there. Mom hugged me before the ceremony. We're so proud of you, she said, sounding sincere. I'm sorry we didn't show it before. I hugged her back, feeling her relief. She'd been torn between Dad's doubts and her love for me. Logan came next, surrounded by tech guests. This is amazing, he said. I had no idea. That's because you never asked, I replied gently, no bitterness now. Dad stood off to the side, wearing the watch. I walked over. Thanks for coming, I said. He nodded, wouldn't miss it. I took a breath. Dad, I know I used to hurt you by challenging you, but hearing useless girl drove me to prove you wrong. He looked at me, his expression soft. You certainly did. I smiled. I did. Standing in the building I built, I finally felt free. I was Vanessa Graves, CEO, innovator, and proof that no one would ever call me useless again.